We interrupt this program for a breaking news alert from the local station.
That breaking news alert comes to us from the Middle East. Iran says that it has retaliated for the United States strikes from Saturday, now attacking American forces stationed at Qatar's Al Udeid Air Base. Iran made the announcement on state television, calling it a mighty and successful response. The attack came shortly after Qatar closed its airspace as a precaution amid threats from Iran. Witnesses in Qatar said they saw what appeared to be missiles in the skies over the country. There has been no acknowledgement of an attack yet from authorities in Qatar. However, we're also going to bring online to talk with us further about this breaking and developing story a retired Admiral Robert Natter, an admiral who has a lot of experience in the military. Are you there, Admiral Natter?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on such short notice. What is your reaction to this attack by Iran? They did say this would likely occur.
Well, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. But having said that, I think a lot is going to depend on the extensive nature of their response, and if it's going to continue, if they're going to hit other bases. If that's the case, then I think we're postured very well as a country to respond to their attacks.
Mr. Natter, because of this attack in Qatar, I know that there has been discussion about whether we call this us really going or being at war at this point. Would this action essentially mean that we are at war at this point with Iran and functioning as an ally with Israel?
I don't think so. This is simply a case of responding to an attack on our U.S. forces and citizens in the region. We have every right to defend ourselves in that respect.
And with this, the expectation is that there could be more strikes from Iran. In your experience, in your perspective, why could they have potentially chose the airspace specifically in Qatar?
Well, from what I understand, it's not only them striking our forces in Qatar, but also in Bahrain and other areas in the region. If that's the case, they're striking whatever they think they can hit.
And then there's also been discussion about closing certain waterways that are utilized for trade. So that might also create a more hostile environment for ships that may be transporting through that area as well.
Well, that's correct, and certainly the United States has the experience with the Iranians trying to close the Straits of Hormuz and those waterways through which a lot of oil flows, not only to our allies in the region, but also to China and other nations with the needs of that oil. So we know how to respond to that if that's the case.
Now, with this occurring, there obviously would be a different level of concern and alert for United States military bases all over the world. What is it like in this type of situation after now having an actual attack that has occurred from Iran on a U.S. air base such as Qatar?
Well, I think all our bases are going to be at a higher level of alert. Certainly we've gone through this before, after 9/11, for example. So our forces know how to defend their bases. They know how to increase the threat level and respond to that.
So at this point as well, if you have an American that has made plans to travel anywhere throughout the country, anywhere in the Middle East, do you believe that this is a point where now folks may want to cancel those plans, change those plans, delay those plans?
Well, if I were doing the traveling, I would certainly pause and see how things develop. Depending on where I had my plans to travel, I would think twice.
Mr. Natter, President Trump had talked about now is the time to have discussions and have some type of dialogue to come up with an agreement or a resolution, if you will, between Israel and Iran, and also with regard to the United States. Because of this attack that Iran has just made on the U.S. airbase of Qatar, do you believe that Iran is even open to the possibility of dialogue, or is this action showing them that dialogue is no longer on the table?
I think dialogue is always on the table, even during the heightened hostilities. They should never be off the table. Having said that, depending on the extent and nature of these attacks and how long they last, that'll have an impact on whether those discussions will be successful or not.
So then, Mr. Natter, I'll ask you this question. In your experience, how long do you think this could go on? Because at this point, the United States could also have a retaliation strike to the act in Qatar. And other officials have expressed their concern that this could be retaliation after retaliation from both sides. How long do you think something like this could keep going?
I would hesitate to guess in that regard, because there are two parties here that have to make that decision with respect to the United States, ourselves and the Iranians. And then, of course, our allies in the region have a say in this as well now. So we'll be discussing this with them, and those in the Arabian Gulf, as well as our allies in Israel, and hopefully the Iranians.
Yes, Mr. Natter. And stay with us. I just want to give those who are just joining us a quick summary, but stay with us, Mr. Natter. Again, if you're just joining us, missiles launched at a base housing United States troops in Iraq. We're being told that by security officials. That this breaking news alert that we're joining you with now in the Middle East, Iran says it's retaliated for the United States strikes on them from Saturday, now attacking American forces stationed at Qatar's Al Udeid Air Base. Iran made the announcement on state television, calling it a mighty and successful response. The attack came shortly after Qatar closed its airspace as a precaution amid threats from Iran. Witnesses in Qatar said that they saw what appeared to be missiles in the skies over the country. There's been no acknowledgement of the attack yet from authorities in Qatar. And we also do have with us retired Navy Admiral Robert Natter. Mr. Natter, I'll ask you this one question. What is your greatest concern in your experience working in the military for as long as you served this country for decades, now that this conflict has occurred and Iran has responded attacking the base in Qatar? What are your greatest concerns?
Well, obviously, my concern revolves around protecting our own people out there. Not only our military folks on these bases, but also the many civilians who are in the region. Secondly, it would be protecting our forces in the region, and if necessary, the utilization of those forces in a very effective way against any enemy attacks.
And there's also been a concern with regard to embassies in that area. Approximately how many embassies do you think are in the Middle East or could be possibly targeted as well while this conflict continues, Mr. Natter?
Well, pick a country and we have an embassy there with respect to all the countries in the region except possibly Iran. And the State Department officials there are very important, not only to protection of this country, but also their representation of us in those countries.
Yes, sir. Again, Mr. Natter joining us. Thank you again for your time, Mr. Natter. We will, of course, continue to follow this story. Iran has said on their state news that they have attacked the United States Air Base in Qatar in retaliation to the attacks from the United States on 3 sites in Iran. We will continue following this story for you, bringing updates on air. But the news continues with this developing story on news4jax.com. We now go back to your regular programming.
See why every day more people are choosing News 4 Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.